Hey Josie, tell them what they're watching. Yeah!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to We're Here. We're finally here with our second episode of Chit-Chat. Finally did it. Always struggling to keep up a good upload schedule on the channel. I recorded a guest segment with Mason for the podcast 10 months ago. You'll see it one day. I'm trying. We're doing this first. I'm Sage Man. That's not some prance about stage name touting my wisdom and manliness. It's just my name. And in today's episode, we'll be talking about our teaser for Irregular Fantasy. Something of an adaptation, more of a very expensive fanfic right now, of the venerable webcomic Irregular, a webcomic. Make sure you have seen that little teaser before watching this episode. Link in description, probably. So I will. Yes, I was you. I am your Tommy Wiseau of this teaser, your director, writer, producer, right? And I'm joined here by my two co-producers. Introduce yourselves.
I will go because it says AJ on the bottom part, but I am Aaron Schmitt. I'm also producer, hopefully going to be a co-writer soon, and also actor part of this.
I am Mason Ellison. I am also one of the producers. I have done a little bit of co-writing for a couple of things with Sage, and I am also a voice actor on this project. I voiced Mordekai.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I should have said I voiced Dwalin. I should have said that.
Yeah. And I am Draak.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk a bit about the first episode of Chit Chat. Was, of course, for Mason's thing, the audio drama. Better yet, if you're interested in Irregular Fantasy, I encourage you to also go back and view Better Yet. It's not similar or anything, but we also did it.
Yeah, so good too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Normally, we'd open a chit-chat episode, as we do podcast guest segments, with a little Q&A from our Patreon followers of the appropriate rank. The only such person is still Sadie Allen. And as Sadie happened to be the one who storyboarded this teaser, I felt her bit merits a bit more than asking a question of us. So she prepared a little statement of her own, which I will play for you now, accompanied by a few shots from the storyboard.
Working on the storyboards for Irregular Fantasy taught me a lot because I'd never storyboarded anything before and wasn't entirely sure what I was getting myself into. I remember working on it every day for a while, but Sage can tell you that I am a very slow artist, not helped by the fact that I am a huge perfectionist. Still, I had a lot of fun drawing these characters, especially Mordekai and his awesome cape, and it gave me a good excuse to practice drawing different poses and expressions. Drawing full bodies was, and still kind of is, something I really struggled with, especially the characters with body types that aren't so easy to find tutorials for, like Draak. So doing it over and over gave me a lot of overdue practice. I could definitely do a better job now, but I still look back at my time boarding this teaser and feel proud that I managed to do it despite all my muddling around in Photoshop and all the self-doubt I felt about not being good enough for the job. The end result is amazing, and I'm very proud of everyone who partook in its creation.
And you can see her full storyboard by becoming a patron yourself. Now, she wasn't totally accurate when she said she'd never storyboarded before. She also boarded a few scenes of the Keys and Kingdoms pilot, and that pilot storyboard is on the Patreon too. Maybe it shouldn't be. Big spoilers. We're working on that pilot as well, which is kind of put our best foot forward. So, maybe don't watch the board until the thing is finished, but do what you like. I'd like to talk a little about our Patreon tiers. We need people. If you come on our Patreon and you donate just $1 a month, you are a squire. You can see the posts that are there. The other of my two patrons is a squire, but since she's just a squire, we don't talk about her. Yeah.
And we still love you. We just don't talk about you.
Yes. $5, you're a soldier. You can join Sadie in having your name in the ending bumper of all our videos like this one, and you can join our Discord community. $11, you're a warrior. You can submit questions for Q&A segments like we've just talked about. $20, you're a knight. I verbally thank you in that ending bumper, and that's right where Sadie is. $50, you're a champion. We're going to put you on the website with a profile. I took down most of the website. I got to bring it back, get new bios for everyone, new descriptions of all the projects. Talk to you guys about that after this. And I know it's for the far, far distant future, but if for some reason anyone wants to donate $100 a month to us, that makes you a grand champion, and you can join our secret Discord server where we talk about the production. We talk about stuff as we're producing it. And yes, and whereas the fans who are not on the Patreon, those are our farmers. Welcome, farmers.
Farmers are still needed.
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
Yeah.
without serfdom, the whole entire feudal system collapses.
Oh yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
much.
Let's talk about how this project got started. It was 2018 when we started the very first TAPAS project, recording sound sets from our actor friends to play as the characters from Irregular webcomic in the classic computer RPG Icewind Dale. I've kind of orphaned that playthrough. I just, had a hard time editing all the voices and stuff. But I'm going to start it over because I do want to finish the game with those characters. More importantly, is wandering around with the Forgotten Realms with those characters and having our actor friends also dub all the NPCs dialogue and just hearing the characters they came up with. That made me want to come up with my own adventures for these characters. And before I knew it, I had a good 30 pages of story ideas written down, incorporating all sorts of elements from the comic into a new story, sort of like a franchise reboot like you see all the time with cartoons, like a reimagining. And it was June of 2020 when I approached the comics author, David Morgan Marr, about it, and he was flattered and gave it a tentative green light. Then a month later, I somehow lost all of the files where I had my ideas, so that really brought me down for a while. But so then it was 4 months later that I finally had the will to start over. And let's just say I now have a lot more than 30 pages of content prepared.
Yay.
We'd hope to release something on the 20th anniversary of the comic. That kept coming closer and closer, and we missed it. It was New Year's Eve, this past New Year's Eve. So, didn't get the teaser out in time. Even, sadly, narrowly missed the 5th anniversary of TAPAS, but that's what happens. David Morkamara, when talking about the project, he calls us a startup studio, and that's being generous. TAPAS is it's mostly just me, hence maybe we're lucky we're trying that you saw in the teaser. We're doing what we can. And that's also why it's not animated. Like my grandpa saw it and he was like, their mouths don't move when they talk. And I'm like, Grandpa, you know where I live. Do I look like I can afford animation? It's
Do they have to move?
And it's but that's just something I came with long ago because I knew I'm never going to afford animation, but maybe a little bit of a motion comic, a little kind of animated, a little more animated than a motion comic. And I call it, not quite animation. It's not a comic. I call it anemic. And I don't know. I want to stick with that because it grosses people out. Like I didn't think anemia was something so cringeworthy, but hey, there you go.
There you go. It does work out because for like Insomniac, for something like company like that for video games and stuff, and other companies use those kind of gross out methods to kind of really pop out and stuff.
Yeah, it's all about.
I was about to say, I've never heard of an animation project being called anemic like that. So definitely was original when you told me about it. So
yeah,
right. And so so as for just the point we're making here, I think this is going to be a long one because this teaser, it's the teaser it's a lot shorter than Better Yet, but it took a lot more work. Better Yet was all audio, so it's a bit more than that. So I started. Well, let's talk about how the three of us got that producer credit. That kind of started with my own role in Better Yet. Like, I gave Mason and myself producer credit because, one, I was in position to do that, and we were both kind of helping to pay for stuff. But Mason took that seriously and actually gave me some say over what was going on in Better Yet. And so I was a real producer there, and so I figured, okay, I think I could take these two guys on, and we can work on that, going that together. And so we've been so we've all been paying for it, and we've all haven't been many decisions to make yet, but we're digging into it, and I'm really looking forward to working with these guys. Just starting with just their voice acting, and it's moving forward. I think we're all very excited about this project.
Oh heck yeah.
Yeah.
Super excited for all of it.
I think people are really going to enjoy it. I really do.
Yeah. And it's got so much potential just to keep going.
Yep.
Mhm. And then we had next in the credits was production manager Dominic. He's been around, just doing kind of little odd jobs. I figured we needed a guy for that. Call him production manager.
Always need an odd man to do our odd jobs.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I've always liked about Dominic specifically, because we've all worked with Dominic on show. For anyone who doesn't already know, the three of us have all met in the community theater. In fact, pretty much everybody involved has been involved in our local community theater.
Yes,
and the thing I like about Dominic specifically, in terms of working with him, no matter what it is the fact that Dominic is someone who always approaches every challenge to the best of his ability. And when you have that faith in someone, you just feel secure that you're going to get a quality result. And that's the thing that, I feel that way with just about everybody here. But Dominic really excels when it comes to, if he doesn't know something, he will look into it. He will try and learn it, or find someone who can do it. He really is, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, he is a workhorse when it comes to the idea of making sure the finer details that sometimes get missed get polished to the best they can possibly be.
Absolutely.
And so that's why Dominic has been so great to work with.
Yeah, and I'm pretty into that myself. I'm pretty into making sure everything's right. So look forward to getting more from him as we start to take him on things that aren't quite so ready yet.
Absolutely.
And let's talk about our voice actors. When we started, I reassembled the cast of the sound sets, but half had to back out. We still got me. I changed up my performance from the sound set. I realized I was mostly just doing Russian accent. So here's what I do now. And here's what I gotta do. I take my lips and I put them over here. So my lips barely move and all the air has to pass through my canines. And so I figure in theory that makes me sound like a guy with lizard lips and long sharp teeth. And then just low pitch and talk like Draak. Sadly, some people have observed that he still just kind of sounds Russian, but I did what I could. I'm satisfied. Draak is, obviously my favorite character. And it's a great challenge to write for him because I'm sticking by the rule of the comic that Draak never says any word with more than one syllable. So I am sticking to that rule, and it's a hell of a fun challenge.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the Russian accent. I've heard you do the Draak voice for so long. I don't hear Russian. I just hear Draak.
Well, that's good. Hopefully a bit of that mindset gets around. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the listener who's not picking it up most of the time.
And we've got AJ as Dwalin. He was the newest member of the TAPAS team when we started the sound sets. We just worked together on a play, Mark Twain's Is He Dead? And it turned out not only that we both love doing voices and stuff, but he had a little homemade sound booth in his home. So the sound set project I'd been dreaming about for years could be a thing. And Dwalin was a character whose voice I'd never really been able to picture right, but I knew AJ had the personality type for it, the boisterous nature, and I won't give away the game here, but his ritual for getting into character inspired an entirely new set of characters in their own right, who we'll talk about them when they debut in Dwalin's character short. I'm sure you'll know them when you see them.
Yes.
And
I love playing the Dwalin character for one thing. If you don't mind me continue, unless you had something more.
no, that's me done with the Dwalin segment. You go on.
Nice. Well, I love this Scottish accent. Obviously, when it comes to dwarves, most of the time they are predicted, portrayed.
Predictably.
Portrayed, yes.
I was trying to think of portrayed, but
Scottish.
yeah.
Nobody really knows why. Everybody's annoyed by it, but we keep doing it anyway. Right?
We just keep doing it anyway, and that's the thing about Dwalin is that he just keeps going no matter what. He just keeps pushing through, keep going on the adventure, and always there to be the good guy to help save whoever needs to be saved.
Hey, as you may have picked up from his exasperation, I feel he's the most traditionally heroic member of the team, and that sometimes leaves him with not much to do. but he does what he can, and that's what heroes do ultimately.
He's just making sure that nobody falls off the edge, or nobody catches anything on fire, or Draak doesn't eat anybody. And so then maybe can I give a little bit of spoiler of where I kind of came up with the voice for Dwalin?
I don't think I know this story. Yeah, what did you draw inspiration from?
Mainly just I love the Scottish accent in general, and then through like high school I did Scottish field study and like over the traditions of Scotland and all that, and mainly the main first person my Scottish accent I tried it on. Let's see if I can do it. I haven't done it. Is Sean Connery.
Sure.
Exactly. It's not everybody thinks it's Bond that he was my first, but it's not. It's actually Dragonheart. Dragonheart. He portrayed Draco, the giant dragon.
Yeah, very nice.
That was a kind of that was a bad Sean Connery because I couldn't really hear any Sean Connery in there. But that was my first Scottish accent that I worked towards, and then I picked up more famous ones like Craig Ferguson and
that's what I thought. Yeah.
Butler. Yeah, Craig Ferguson. I love Craig Ferguson because he's just so higher pitched and he's just kind of peppery proper and just kind of
he's
almost
very
Irish.
Yeah, I figured Ferguson was like he's very like old school dwarf, very second edition dwarf where they're just the comic relief bumbling around. I think Ferguson would excel in a role like that.
I find it odd that you two connected over the Scottish accent because if I'm remembering correctly, Aaron, in Is He Dead, you were playing a German character, weren't you?
Yes, I was playing Hans von Bismarck.
Yeah, he was the German guy, and I was the Chicago guy, and of course, and Sydney was the Irish guy, and all three of us auditioned for all of those different accents, and plus there were a number of French characters in the play, and so it was just at auditions that we discovered, hey, these guys are doing accents, and
yeah. It all worked out together. It all just came together.
Oh yeah, we had the three of us as the funny foreign apprentices. We had such good chemistry together, and and we took that right to the sound sets, pretty much. If I may move on.
No, the other part was the how to get into the Scottish accent of that. Was that because you're talking about the theme character.
Yeah, we're going. Yeah, we'll go into that later about your little getting into character ritual, and we did talk. We did talk about it in your podcast guest spot. So people want to if people want to watch that, it gives me minutes. So
go find it.
Yeah.
No.
And then, yes, finally, joining the cast of that teaser from the original Soundset cast, we had Michael Perkins as Kairos, very talented, very suave. He's a hard guy to find. He's very busy, but when we managed to get a hold of him, it's pretty clear he thinks laying down his voice for a project like this is just the coolest thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And and he does kind of carry this. He's got to carry this teaser with just the first line from our heroes. sounds boring, let's not.
Mhm.
Which is straight from the comic. That was Kairos's response to the recitation of the quest and Draak's as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Love it.
It was Aaron who first thought that the Shackletons, Sydney and Jen, would work well as Mordecai and Alvissa, and we had just worked with both of them on Is He Dead, and they did. They were good as their main characters, and they did a lot of the heavy lifting as NPCs in the game as well. They backed out from this project when they discovered they were expecting twins, who are, oh, they would have had their first birthday a while back now, right?
They're over 1 year old.
Yeah, just two adorable little girls. So we needed a new Mordecai and Elvissa, and as Mason was already on board as producer, I figured he'd be joining the cast at some point. It was a no-brainer for him to be Mordecai. And while he deliberately didn't listen to the sound sets because he wanted to make it his own, he didn't want to be impersonating Sydney, but wouldn't you know it, no one can tell the diddly difference.
What do you know?
He's just a
Yes.
master in his own way.
Yeah, but
I just call it an astonishing coincidence.
Yeah,
at
it's- I
this
mean, yeah,
point.
you-
It really is.
yeah, you are making it your own thing. It's just it's your own thing, and it's just it just happens to sound like the last guy. I'm sure nobody could fault you for that. And Mordecai is a massive fan favorite within the team so far. So
But no, it's interesting because I mean, I wasn't in Is He Dead, but Sydney, Sage, and I all worked together when we were on the cast of Spamalot, and I actually went to college with Sydney before that even. So, I mean, I knew that much like me, Sydney has a very natural sort of tenor resonance to his voice. But that said, I didn't know what he was going to do or anything. In fact, when I read over, the material they sent me for who Mordecai was and all that, I knew what you wanted. You wanted this really confident, really suave, lovable character, which I love because, well, quite often I get typecast as jerks, and not lovable jerks. I mean, flat out unpleasant people. And so I really enjoyed having this change of pace. And incidentally enough, I was kind of thinking of like various different British characters. And so I was kind of thinking of like Hugh Grant and, those rom-coms from the 90s and all that. Can't do Hugh Grant, but I'm talking about those kinds of characters.
yeah.
But you want to know the one that really kind of sold me for the sort of pitch that was more in my natural voice was?
What might that be?
Daniel Radcliffe's guest spot on BoJack Horseman. Hi, I'm Daniel Radcliffe. Hello. The whole, everyone loves him.
Yeah.
He's just a phenomenal life of the party kind of guy, and he is so in love with himself, at least in that interpretation.
Yeah, it's it's good to draw from.
I can do that vibe. I could do that vibe. So I sort of took that, and I decided I am a lovable rogue. And the instant I show up, not only am I going to steal your heart, I'm going to pick your pocket. So that's what I was going for. And what do you know? That happened to be what Sydney sounded like after the fact.
It did, yeah. Here's an interesting thing. I had originally intended, back at this outset, I wanted Mordecai to sound Australian because the comic is Australian. I figured somebody ought to be, but Sydney, he'd just come off being Irish for a while, and he couldn't get his voice to go that far, so he went English, and that worked. That works really well for the characters, the suave English type.
I was about to say I didn't even know anything about him being Australian. I didn't even know that David Morgan Marl was Australian.
Until just now?
No. I mean, when I learned after the fact. I'm just saying.
I don't think.
When you asked me to do it and I recorded, I didn't realize he was Australian until you told me. I think like a month later that he was.
Yeah, that's just something. Yeah, I was just wanting Mordecai to be Australian. Was just a very early, very brief kind of production thing. That it fell off pretty quick, and I got used to him the English way, and worked quite well. And
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, I mean, you heard Sadie talk about how much she liked to draw Mordekai, and just everybody's loving the performance. And yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
yeah, and it's the performance and the writing, and the writing is very much a lot of fun. He's a big show stealer, and it's like, just like, in Better Yet, everybody loves to see that Ryan, and yeah, I don't know, just a star is born is what I'm saying.
Well, thank you, but I honestly, the emotional linchpin I really enjoyed in Better Yet was the chemistry we played off of everybody, but honestly,
Everybody, yeah.
so much of that wouldn't have worked if Sage was not as Trent, holding so much of it together. Our performances were only as good as what we were able to get out of each other, and yeah, I really enjoyed it, even if Ryan ended up a little bit more of a hate sink than I was going for. But it worked.
Yeah, it worked. People liked it, and yes, if he did mention, I was the lead actor in Better Yet, and and Mason, Mason, he didn't want to do it. He just wanted to be director. But I mean, just who else could be the smug, horrible jerk? It was just.
I do have a knack for it.
Oh, you didn't think that was funny. I'm so sorry.
I can't.
I'm kidding. No, it was funny.
All right.
I'm messing with you.
As for Elvissa, not much of a story there. I just of everyone available, the best candidate was Ellison, newest member of the team at that time, who had just been brought in to take over Adrian's role in Keys and Kingdoms. Like, yeah, we were seriously talking about getting people in the studio, and so lots of people were dropping out. But so Allison's been great, replaced Jen not only as Elvissa, but as the one person starring in both projects. And yeah, she's just been real professional in getting everyone together, and especially in singing. She's very good.
Yes.
She's one of those people that is just a dream to work with, no matter what it is, because aside from not only being great and being professional, she lifts everybody up with her attitude. She comes in and she's willing to have fun and play and experiment with new things. There's nothing, insurmountable for her. She looks at it as something new to do, and I love working with people like that. And again, the entire cast has been great, but like you said, Ellison has really sort of become the MVP of both projects, just by again being that person who can really rally others up.
Yeah, that's good.
I have to really agree with you there, because she just is phenomenal, and she can sing her heart out, and she can always, no matter what we do, she doesn't take any time like to practice. Really, she's always maybe in a few times, and then she's just in it, and then she's good to go.
Well,
and she's always just like
in the studio. I'm sure she's practicing plenty on her own, but in the studio, yes.
But yeah, phenomenal actress, singer,
phenomenal person,
phenomenal
person.
Very sweet. And among our main characters, we had Drew Quintero was our original Lambert. I was inspired by his work as Patsy in Spamalot. Spamalot was my first project with the local theater, and it was really what inspired me to really think I could do stuff that led me to create TAPAS. And that's
where we met.
Yeah, that's where I met Mason, and then I met AJ later on Is He Dead? And so I felt Drew gave Patsy a very hobbitish personality, and Drew's an incredible actor. I think he did most of the sound set in one take, and it's probably the best one. And he's very busy in the local theater scene. He just couldn't stick around once we'd assembled the cast. So I went to Randy. I guess we've got all the men of Better Yet in this show now. I knew Randy had a connection with the material. Longtime fantasy gamer. he read a regular webcomic in its heyday, which is more than I can say. I'm quite I discovered it fairly recently, and he's even familiar with David Morganmar's work with the GURPS role-playing game, which I'm certainly not. So even though he was quick to inform us he couldn't do an English accent, so we lost that particular bit of hobbitishness, but the source material flows in his veins, while Drew, he just knows theater, and I feel his theater chops made their way into my writing of the character, and Randy can do that too, so there you go. And that's why you'll see Drew and Jen and Sydney in the special thanks section, because they did try to jump on board there.
Yeah.
And they've been real supportive of the project in terms of just encouraging us on a personal level.
Yeah, yeah.
That's always great when you have people who, even if they can't, be involved in the project, they still are rooting for you, because
Totally, yeah.
you need that.
Okay.
Yeah, we do very much.
100%.
And let's see, anything else, anything further to note about Randy, just on the teaser level?
Like you
Well-
said, I'm with you, because so much of this genre is so very, very new to me. I'm like you said, I like the fact that he's so familiar with the source material that in many ways, I don't want to say he can like guide us, but in other ways, he is so familiar that it really kind of resonates in knowing exactly who Lambert is and
Sure, yeah.
bringing the essence of that character to life. Because what's the best way to say this? The kind of character Lambert is can be kind of difficult to play, because if you play him too goofy, he can appear like an idiot. If you play him too straight, he's not fun.
There you go, yeah.
And that's a tough balance to really kind of crack. And I think being as familiar with it as he is, that's why Randy has been as amazing as he is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And also, honestly, you talked about the Hobbits always having a British accent. I really like the Randy's portray of like not having it, because it for some reason it makes the character shine that much more.
Yeah,
And
I
so-
think so. Like, yeah, that's how I imagined it when I read the comic for some reason. I pictured Lambert and Mordekai as being British, but Kairos and Elvis as being American for some reason. And that's not how most people picture fantasy. They picture every character with English accents. But yeah, I think ending up with just Mordekai there worked out pretty well. And yeah, I think as the fantasy genre is modernizing a bit more, it's a bit more acceptable to have American characters in that environment.
Well, I mean, the world of irregular webcomic, regular fantasy, this world is massive. They're not all going to have the same accent.
Indeed.
Oh, sorry.
What's up?
Oh, my air conditioner just kicked on. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. Did you hear anything?
I don't know if you could hear.
I could not, but yeah, that reminded me. I wondered if you'd hear my dog whining, but I hope that didn't get picked up too much, because it's a little bit distressing. It's just, he's old and he's got bad hips. That's all. I was just, didn't want to ignore him, but that's kind of all I could do. But
No.
No.
He's a great sir.
yeah, we're good. And yeah, okay, he's asleep now, so we're good.
That's good.
My lovely old doggo. Okay,
Oh,
Mhm.
and finally,
I love taking care of him.
yeah, you did good there.
Yeah.
Glad you can do that when I need you.
No problem.
And our final cast member, King Dwalin. We had Rob Thomas, aka Bob Show, who is just a YouTuber I'd been following for a long time. If YouTube gave out bronze play buttons, he'd totally have one, but they don't. So he's quadruple bronze for whatever that's worth. He's a media reviewer in the nostalgic tradition. He's very insightful and talented, and I first Yeah, I'd been following him for a while when I first got on his radar when I donated $1,000 to his vacation fund to spend a summer with his producer and long distance girlfriend, Raven Fox. Back when I lived with my aunt and worked at her very successful business in lieu of rent, I could do crap like that. Now that I live alone, my grocery bill cuts into this tapas stuff pretty hard. Yay, adulting.
It's almost
Yeah.
like some kind of conspiracy that we need to have food.
Right? Anyway, as I think the top donor, I got to have a Skype call with Rob and Raven. Remember Skype? Skype was the only name in video chatting, but then the moment video chatting was no longer optional, Zoom just bulldozed it. It's crazy. Anyway,
Take
and,
it over.
and I
And
told,
all it took was a global pandemic for that to happen.
yeah. And I told Rob about many of my projects and how I'd always been on the lookout for special guests to do some voice acting, and he was like, ho, 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 ho. So that was cool. Last year, when he did his annual Indie Comics Month, he admitted that he doesn't really get high fantasy. So Raven reviewed the high fantasy indie comic in his stead. But we had a good time developing the voice for King Dwalin. His first go at it, he called it Sean Connolly, right? So a little bit of Sean Connery, a little bit of Billy Connolly. And I was like, okay, that's good. Let's lean a little bit more into the Connery, or just more dramatic, because Billy Connolly can be quite silly as well. And yeah, I think I generally want to play King Dwalin pretty straight. And he gave us a really good performance. And Raven did most of the coordination between me and him, so she's in special thanks section as well. You will hear King Dwalin again and see him in all his royal splendor in the Dwalin character short whenever we get around to that.
Yep.
We've got music by Robert Mullis, who I know I go through a lot of producers who just find that they've signed on to too much and they can't work with me, but Robert's been good. Robert actually does the stuff, and yeah, he did. Yeah, he gave us a great musical score. That's just a lot of fun to accompany the whole thing. And the character shorts are going to be very musically oriented, and I've got some ideas there, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what else Robert comes up with there.
Yeah, hats off to him, because I mean, so much. And I'm always amazed when people are capable of just creating this original music
Well,
for
heck yeah.
something that sometimes isn't even the major focus. And not only does he do a phenomenal job, but he has done a lot for us in that regard. And seriously, we can't thank him enough for not only working with us, but just also doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, because music's been the hardest part, and I love music, and if only I could make it myself. But so it's something I've been longing for a long time, and he so delivered, and continues to do so.
And slightly piggybacking off of that, that's another area where Dominic also helps, because since Dominic can play the piano, if there's something that we need to do in-house here, Dominic has been able to kind of coordinate Robert's music so that we're able to understand it.
That was good stuff, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have our art. We started with some character designs from Casey Goslin. And then when I started taking this project really seriously, that's when Casey wasn't available at that time, so it was Stacey Lord who finalized the character designs that we're using now, and yeah, it's just great to see them come alive. And what I did was I kind of stayed internal, just people that I know for the designs and storyboards, and you'll see there was an Irregular Fantasy logo which started off designed in Sadie's storyboard before Stacey finalized it, and it was Lindsay Eby who animated logo, which was just super fun seeing that imagery come to life on the logo there. And then when we got to the final two, just all the many character poses required and actually animating them moving around, that we went to Fiverr, picked up some freelancers, and had mixed results at first, but fell in with people who did really good, who I hope to continue working with. My original intent for the layout stage of these anemic projects was for the reference photos that we'd taken to be just moved around on the set the way the characters would ultimately, but nobody could really understand what I was getting at. I asked Stacy, I asked Kenzie, so that they just didn't get it. So I skipped that, got the reference photos converted to the character art instead. Went through a few artists. Some were just not quite good enough. Some were just complete charlatans. In the end, all of it was done by Overx Agency, a Venezuelan art studio I've continued to work with on future designs. I believe the particular artist who did all the poses was called Giuliani. So really good character work, building off the storyboards and the live action poses, and it's just great to see so many layers come together in a final. And I sought out
great job.
Yeah, and I sought out someone else on Fiverr who specialized in motion comics to do the layout part, which was, it wasn't layout anymore. It was final animation, and went with a Croatian guy called Snapple. And I had to hash out a lot of details with him as well before he really understood what we were going for. But now the trailer is done. It got done. So I hope everyone understands that when we're talking about layout, I meant like that. They do that. They move like that. Okay.
Yeah.
And
thank God for Fiverr, but sometimes it can be a real pain.
It can be, but yeah, it's hey, it's good to just live in that world where we've got it's pretty easy to pick up a freelance artist as long as you're willing to treat them right and pay them what they're worth. Yeah.
Exactly.
Cheers. So and yeah, you'll see Lindsay also has a credit for cleanup and continuity art, and that was just okay, just some of what Overx did was a little bit off model, and Lindsay just cleaned that up a bit, like and they're even, it was just tiny stuff. Guess the only one that sticks to mind right now is one that wasn't even in the instructions because Lindsay noticed it before I did. That's the pommel of Alvissa's sword was opal like her belt buckle instead of gold like it was supposed to be, and Lindsay fixed that.
Nice.
Oh, good.
Good catch.
Yeah, I was pleased with that. And then we have our audio credits. I find I've had Mason on as my voice co-director for all these projects, and it's just been really good stuff. We usually get like 2 takes from the actor because our actors aren't really professionals. They can't really think of a third way to do it, but then Mason suggests a third way to do it that just brings out the absolute best performance imaginable. And I go like, how did you do that? It was
How does your brain work that way?
Yeah.
Okay, so like I said, all of us are theater people. We've all done a lot of acting on stage, and so I think what I was kind of processing from doing that, because when I was in college, I did a little bit of theater directing myself. Very stressful. Don't recommend it unless you're getting paid for it, by the way. And so I was thinking about it, and like Sage said, we'd say, give us 3 clean takes, and then they'd give us 2, and then they kind of struggle with the third one. And so I just kind of thought, okay, if you were performing this character on stage, what would be something you could use as a reference to carry that just with your voice?
Voice acting is a lot like stage acting.
Really embody that, Because yeah, exactly. Sometimes when you're thinking about how your body would do it, your voice can respond that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just kind of what I was thinking. It's like, okay, if I were performing this on stage, what kind of direction would I possibly need? And then I would suggest that. And more often than not, that would usually get us the result we didn't even know we were looking for half the
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just helpful because I mean I'm not very good at providing context. I don't really know how to explain things that I already know. So and so yeah, people were yeah, and so yeah, if there's some ambiguity about just the situation that we're in, Mason even knew what questions to ask to get me to provide the appropriate context to begin with.
Well, and sometimes all you need is just, even if it's ambiguous, sometimes all you need is just that one little spark, that idea, that thing you don't even know you're thinking about. It's in the back of your mind. You just need someone else to come up with it, and boom, it works. And it's not just for me. During Better Yet, Sage and I had moments like that all the time. So I think that's kind of working through Better Yet is probably where we came to such a really good relationship working in voice direction together.
Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah. He yeah, I mean I wasn't like co-director on Better Yet, but I helped. Yeah.
A lot. I do appreciate that.
But no, Mason, I do have to commend you for your work. How, like Sage said, you
Thank
do
you.
just have, like, your brain does just work differently, where you can just pick these things out, and it's just it really helpful throughout the whole all the projects.
Well, I'm happy to do it. I didn't even know I could do it until we started doing it. Because when you asked me to help you co-direct, it's like, oh man, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
What do you do?
And then we got in there, and then we'd hear these takes, and it's like, okay, let's try this.
Yep.
So
Was excellent. And yes, what I think is probably the most interesting story we have is one of the last things we did, which was sound design. And that's just something we did mostly. We went back to Aaron's booth. He had a new one because he's just been kind of reshuffling the house a little bit, and it was me and Aaron and Dominic, and we had some props to make some noise, and we did it. So what you'll hear a little the little ding as the gems show up, and of course the crown crackling. I figured it at first that okay, how about like we get an ice cube tray and we twist it, but none of the ones we got were loud enough. So Dominic took an ice cube and he popped it in his mouth and he got real close to the mic and he just chewed it. And that is the sound. And that is the sound of the crown cracking. And
Sounds awesome.
and
I should point out that sound I just made of going, that's not me going to the sound, because it sounds great.
Of course, yeah.
Just when you said that,
yeah,
my teeth started to hurt.
Exactly. Yeah. No. That's unpleasant. So yeah, just major props to Dom for that initiative, and it was Robert who did the final sound mix, just taking our sound effects and getting the good audio levels with his music and all the voice acting. And yeah, the crown cracking accompanying the music was epically chilling. I really like that.
Yeah. So good.
Yep. And hopefully someday, if we have to do this again, we'll have a dental plan just to cover ourselves.
Right.
Just in case somebody chips too. But no, I love that, and also the bings of going with the gems, because I love the last 4 bit of the and the 4 others.
And 4 others, yeah. And then you just we had they were triangles, right? They had triangles of various sizes, so they were different pitches, and we just picked the ones that worked best. I think I left Robert up largely to his own initiative and choosing takes of our sound effects for himself, and so I think he picked a good pitch, and then just layer 4 together for 4 others.
Yeah,
I am still so jealous I was not able to make that Foley session
that's-
because it would have been so much fun to sit there.
I've-
But you guys, again, hats off to y'all.
Yeah, it is a very fun process. I'd never done it before, but I'd seen it being done, and it just seems like just a whole lot of fun. And it was. I look forward to doing
yeah.
some more of that because it's gonna be great.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, 'cause just like when if you like the special features of a big movie and you see like how they do the audio in that, or even in video games, like it's just they go through the great extremes to get to those sounds, and also you don't think of like what sounds gonna make, like how they got that sound from a different object or something. Like for
Yeah.
meat sounds, like two cantaloupes
Mhm.
plopping on
Yeah,
something
it's
makes
like
it
you
sound like a
see
meat.
the classics, like
Yeah.
punching a chunk of meat, or the old you got a horse, so you play some coconuts, and you see you see a horse in a film, and it sounds wrong if it doesn't sound like coconuts, right? It's a Foley,
Okay.
it's a fine art, and like you think,
Yeah.
I think it's like it's a very. I mean, think of how like iconic the sounds of like Star Wars are. That's very creative
Oh,
stuff. Yeah, audio
One of my favorite
underrated. Yeah.
special features, just very quickly, is the Foley artistry that I actually kind of went to when we were trying to figure out ideas for Foley sounds.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember exactly where, but it was a behind the scenes look at the Batman Arkham games and how they were able to do so many different sounds for that. So I love the fact that now when I go back and play that game and as Batman, I see someone getting their arm snapped, it's somebody breaking a stalk of celery.
That's the
Yeah,
celery
like
stalk.
that.
Yeah.
makes you a little bit more comforted too, not to know that it's an actual bone breaking. It's just celery.
Yeah,
Yeah, but again, that's what it sounds like in your head. That's the cool part.
exactly. Yeah. So if you don't see them twisting the celery, if you see them snapping an arm instead, it just works so well. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's like, and it's like, I don't see Dominic wrecking his teeth with a chunk of ice. I see the sorrow of the crown of power being lost.
And breaking, yeah.
And and of course, and to record the Great Coconut March, we got to bring in a bunch of horses, right? And then near the
It's going to be in the budget though.
no, and what do we got near the end of the credits? We got our live action reference department. I had it was you two and Dominic and Allison. Every pose you see in the teaser was originally modeled by those. Allison and Mason and Aaron did the characters they voice. Aaron also modeled for Lambert, and Dominic did Kairos and Draak. And yeah, we rented some props from the theater. And that's where Vicky gets special thanks credit. She coordinated with us there. She works at the costume shop mostly, or used to. Yeah, she's just moved.
She'll be leaving
someplace.
soon, but
Yeah. I hope. Yeah, I hope she got my message about how that we're grateful for her work there. And so yeah, we rented some props for the theater, and yeah, Aaron took some initiative. I had to give him some prop construction credit there because he built his own axe and helmet to be Dwalin, and he even made Draak's club, but he made it actual size, and so it wouldn't work because we needed Dominic to look Draak size, so we just gave him a regular scepter. But yeah, I really appreciated that initiative, and I hope you and the guy you talked about can provide us with more props for that step, because I don't know, some may think it's an unnecessary step, but it does make drawing easier, and it is a whole lot of fun.
Yep, and
Oh my
Aaron
gosh.
also was gracious enough to let us use a space to actually take the photos. So that
Yes,
was
yes.
also amazing, too.
All our photography sessions so far have been at this building that his family had but wasn't using, and they're using it now, I guess. So
Can't use it now. It's a slot machine place now.
yeah.
Eh,
Well, but yeah.
Like,
but,
once again, gambling ruins everything.
yeah.
And
Good.
like we need another one of those.
Hey, we got Mason's nice pretty much empty basement, so that'll work.
Yeah. That'll work.
It'll work next
Okay.
time we
Low
need it.
ceiling, but we can get around that.
Yeah, how many people we got that are that tall? I don't know.
Maybe Michael would have some trouble.
Maybe, yeah.
Michael's like 6'3".
Yeah. Was like, and then I got the credit as reference photographer. I don't fancy myself a photographer. I go as far as to say I'm bad at it, but for animation reference, I got the job done. I pointed and clicked.
You
Yeah,
did.
I don't know how
people
people.
point
I don't.
and click.
Yeah.
But point and click.
Hey, I don't know how people point and click and come out with a really good photograph. I can't do that. And
Like you said, it worked. So
yeah, it got the job done. It was just I caught the poses, and I think we can refine that process a bit. It's all about getting a good silhouette and a good, just good expressive pose, and I'd say we did that pretty well.
I would agree.
I agree as well.
And finally, I just like to talk about Kenzie and Natty. They do a lot of work around here, but weirdly, nothing directly related to this teaser. Like I compiled the credits, and I was like, huh, they don't show up once. That's odd. But yeah, and everything that follows, their names will be all over everything. Great.
Everything.
Yeah.
Shirts, signs,
Yeah.
website.
The credits, Aaron.
Sorry.
And
Well,
yeah, they really
Natty
can't.
and Kinsey aren't. They're also involved. Weren't they involved in the creation of TAPAS?
Yes, they are my co-founders in that, and that is they just happened not to do anything that directly related to the teaser, which I just found odd. Apparently Kenzie's family saw the credits, and they were like, hey Kenzie, where the hell's your name? They thought I was totally stiffing her. So I'm like, I don't do that. All right. I kind of have an obsession with credits. All right. They're accurate, I assure you.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
But they're working on stuff right now. Kenzie's been hard at work on character poses for the Keys and Kingdoms teaser, kind of a sister series to this one, and Natty's doing some set design for the same, and they've both done a lot of character concept art for Irregular Fantasy, so you'll be seeing their names.
Yep.
And lights on the subways. No, sorry.
Let's take a kind of a turn in just enter like the second act of this
Are we not
discussion
gonna mention
here.
Isaac?
Oh, Isaac, yes.
Isaac, yes, our sound designer, who we've talked about plenty in relation to Better Yet, but yes, he continued to be there for us. He knew, like, he offered us a very low price for recording the entirety of Better Yet, and I think at the end we all realized, okay, we kind of stiffed him. Our bad. And so yeah,
We did not know what that entailed.
No, we
honestly. I
no, we
wouldn't say
did not.
stiffed him, because stiffing is intentional.
No, I'm being no.
Yeah.
We did not. We did nothing intentionally. Yes, we're kidding, but yeah, we
Yes.
just none of us realized just how hard this would be, and so yeah, he offered us a more reasonable price, and we were willing to pay it. We've gotten voice acting done for for all of the character shorts, for the Keys and Kingdoms pilot episode, and we managed to do a couple of songs for both projects, which is more what he actually does. He records songs, and so we're grateful for him for giving us this unorthodox use of his studio, getting our voice acting done. And he's moving locations right now. We're not sure where he'll end up, but yeah, we're very, very grateful that he got this kicked off for us. So yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I would really like to thank him for, aside from just general positivity and encouragement, is the fact that by working with him, I think we all have developed a better workflow and a better efficiency when it comes to getting our projects recorded.
Heck yeah.
Really learned a lot in terms of how we approach that.
Mhm.
So we owe Isaac way more praise than we're giving him here. So thank you, Isaac, for everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. There's
He was definitely the man on that
yeah,
one.
no, there would not remotely be any kind of big Tapas projects if we hadn't found Isaac. So good
Yeah.
stuff.
He's a blessed man. Need to go find him.
He's a little hard to find too sometimes, but yeah. So let's talk about the events of the teaser. I'm going to give you a bit about the canon of Irregular Fantasy. We try not to do spoilers for the future here in Chit-Chat, but I'm interested right now in at least setting some expectations, because this is an adaptation of a story that, at least was popular at one point. Like, it's all over TV tropes. People cared about it at one point. But, so yeah, it was a TV tropes darling for a while. It's just the current comic is just the fan base isn't as big, but it is continuing. Let's talk about the soul gems. In the comic, of course, it revolves around the quest for the Ruby of Dwarven Might, and establishing right away that it's one of the 10 soul jewels on the Crown of Power, and some of the others are name dropped near the end. And yes, they are soul jewels in the comic, but I called them soul gems in my script, and I realized I had made that mistake, but I kept it because it reminded me of how the Infinity Gems from Marvel Comics became the Infinity Stones in the MCU, and they had already drawn lots of parallels about just being this great big cosmic Easter egg hunt, and so I thought, hey, even a name change can be something they have in common.
Yeah.
And on a similar note, I just noticed the other day that there's a location in the comic that's the Vast Stone Desert. And I was like, Vast Stone Desert? I've been calling it the Great Stone Desert all this time, even with the map right in front of me. What the heck? Mandela.
Yeah. Darn you, Mandela will
Yeah.
get you sometime.
Your alternate universe
I don't
dead
think you're
Mandela.
gonna
No,
get Mandela.
yeah. He's dead in all timelines now, right? Okay.
Wait, he is? I thought he was still alive. Damn you, Mandela!
Anyway, so like I said, so you had the Ruby of Dwarven Might, and then at the very end of the comic, you have Mordekai, Lambert, Elvis, and Draak all name dropped their own people's gems. And so early in development, when I figured the story would be an Easter egg hunt in the vein of the Infinity Saga, and I asked him if he had ever had name. I asked David if he'd ever had named the other 5, and he had not. So I took that to my think tank, and we've got, and so that's where we came up with the Pearl of Gnomish Intellect and 4 others. You will learn what the 4 others are in time. And so I took our list to him, and he said, hey, that's serviceable. But in the meantime, he decided to give it some thought himself and come up with his own set of the other 5. Will his set ever appear in the comic? Hard to say. The comics hiatus ended 8 years ago, and the Fantasy Quest has made absolutely no progress. It's quite hilarious, just really cranking up the way webcomics usually get done, where it just takes years to get anything done. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see if his version. Yeah, I'm sure my version of the Soul Gems will debut long before his does at this point. And then you have the quest. You got the Orcrith Mountains, Swamp of Terror, Golden Citadel. The directions given in the teaser are the same as those which are regularly reiterated in the comic. However, I have snipped and reordered the world map that the comic has into what is necessary to tell our story. The directions King Dwarn gives in the pilot will be significantly different. This teaser, it's not canon. It's not how they all came together to hear from King Dwarn. But now that we've got the bare bones of the world, we've been working on expanding it. When I say we, I mean me. I haven't let the others in on it yet, but I've been reading DMM's campaign notes from his seemingly short-lived D&D campaign where these characters originated. You get occasional snippets of lore in the comic, but its focus was on silly jokes, occasionally character-based jokes, but mostly silly ones. People tell me that I shouldn't worry about world building as much as I do because the important part is the story. And I'm like, yes, I agree. But see, I know how the story goes and it has no setting. There are no locations or history here. We need to world build now. Quit trying to wriggle out of helping me with that.
Mhm. Story has to take place somewhere.
Somewhere. It's got to be somewhere. It's nowhere. Yeah.
Just
And-
can't be always in the void.
Yeah, no void. And, and especially in a fantasy world, the world does have to kind of be a character, And,
Honestly, yeah.
And we can talk about the Irregular Fantasy logo that appears at the end of the series, where it at the end of the teaser, where it morphs into what I'm optimistically calling the season 1 incarnation of the logo. It has some imagery, which will be important in those early stages. So I'm going to clarify that imagery for you here. Not spoilers per se, they're hints that are right there. You have 5 elements appear in the logo. One, of course, is the Ruby of Dwarven Might. I'd just like to make clear to the audience that for myself, I don't consider it a spoiler. These two guys were reluctant to mention it, but I respect my audience enough to know that it is screamingly obvious. Instead of an upcoming plot twist, let's call it dramatic irony, right? It's a very by-the-book definition of dramatic irony, something the audience is aware of, but the characters would probably like to know. I refer, of course, to the fact that the characters are on a quest for the Ruby of Dwarven Might, which Mordekai is using as a belt buckle, right? That was a plot twist at the end of the comic's original run, and when I asked about that, just to see how well I could conceal it, David said that to his knowledge, nobody ever guessed that plot twist was coming over the course of the 8 real-world years they were searching for it. It was suggested it was in part because people didn't really see the teeny tiny gaming miniatures that serve as the characters in the comic as literal representations of the characters. And I would suppose they're so tiny, people didn't even notice Mordekai had a big red ruby displayed on his belt. Now, to keep to the original twist spirit, we are going to continue writing scripts as if it's still going to be a plot twist. I just want it known that we know that you noticed. So in the new medium, it is rather unmissable. Maybe not as early as the teaser, but surely everyone would have noticed well before the actual reveal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As for the other elements in the logo, you got this snazzy mechanical sword. That's not an element from the comic. It's loosely based on a weapon wielded by one of the miniatures used as a character in the comic, but it's mostly something totally new. You'll discover it in the pilot, maybe earlier if you figure out the hints. I love me some fan theories, always dreamed about people theorizing about my stuff, but that sword, it's going to be a pretty big deal to the story. And you've got a giant frog peeking out from behind the logo. Giant frogs are very much a recurring motif in the comic, particularly in relation to the Death Department, whose presence is also indicated by the F turning into a scythe. I love the Death Department, and I'm hoping I can do them justice. We'll see.
Also, we understand in the logo, it may not look like the frog is giant, but it is.
Yeah.
That's true. It just looks like a frog, doesn't it? Hard to tell.
But it is supposed to be a giant frog.
Yes.
Big, very big.
And the eye became the stylized face of Cthulhu, who in the comic has no connection to the fantasy characters, but in developing this series, I tried to excise as much of the comic's multiverse as I could, bringing in as many elements as possible into the fantasy universe, not introducing the multiverse until we absolutely have to. Time will come. Mason and Aaron still haven't read the comic. We need to figure out how to get on that. Them, probably Dominic and Maddie, Kenzie and Stacy, maybe Ellison. We got to make a project out of that.
Yeah.
Final notes about the Irregular Fantasy universe as I'm intending to build it. The heroes, the adventuring party doesn't have a name in the comic, but I think they will soon dub themselves the Irregulars. There will be justification.
Yes.
And they will be more traditionally heroic than they are in the comic. The comic is very gag-based, and as such, they're all either sociopaths or, at best, enablers of said sociopaths. But our guys are going to grow into rock-solid heroes that I hope viewers can admire.
Yeah, at least
They'll
we're
still
not
be goofy and
Expendables.
funny though. But
Of course, they're still gonna be funny, but I think, yeah, yeah, I think
Gotta be funny.
they'll be heroes you can take seriously as well. Um,
Exactly.
And here's another thing. Most stories, especially ones with a lot of lore, they whip out like the first and last names of all the characters straight away. That's like vital information you can't go without. In some stories, meanwhile, mostly cartoons and also a bit of fantasy, the characters just straight up don't have last names, or at least none that come up. And I figured at first that this story would be that second kind, but there's also a third kind, isn't there, where the last names aren't really all that important, but they do turn up at some point. So it's like the characters' last names are tidbits of lore that pop up over time, and I think that's what's going to happen here. Alvissa mentions the noble house of her origin at one point in the comics, so we know her family name, and I recently discovered that DMM's old campaign notes have Lambert's surname in them as well, so I'm going to ask him soon if any of the others do. I assume Draak doesn't, but yeah, we're going to trot out some for Mordekai, Kairos, and Dwalin over time.
excellent.
So what comes next? Well, after the teaser, there will be 6 little shorts characterized as trailers, focusing on each of our 6 party members one at a time. Very much inspired by the 4 color trailers that kicked off Ruby. And then a 2-part pilot, which has been written, been read through by the main cast. We'll start the story properly. And from there, we're hoping for an actual series, which runs for 18 seasons and spawns a ton of spin-off series and video games along the way, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Well,
more,
we could try to get ahead of ourselves.
yeah, I mean, and a more immediate big ambition that I have that yeah, I think I'm willing to share at this point, even if it is well before it's actually available to us. I have 5 special guest stars in mind for the pilot, and I tend to list them in like ascending order from easiest to most difficult to probably acquire. Start with Bob Show as King Dwalin again. You might think that goes without saying, but in any project, especially one like this, there's no guarantee of getting any actor from previous installments to come back. So we've got him for the teasers and trailers. And yeah, I just hope everyone in those does come back for the pilot. Just hope. Hope it works out. And then we got Dominic Noble, the YouTube book and movie reviewer. Some might still know better by his former handle, The Dom. Like Bob Show, I'm in his Patreon. I figure I could ask. The Death Department in the comic takes strong inspiration from Death as he appears in Terry Pratchett's Discworld. And while I'm not very familiar with Pratchett's work myself, I know Dom is a huge fan, so I think we have a good candidate there for the comic character of the Head Death.
Yeah.
Jonathan Sims, creator and star of the Magnus Archives. That's a fandom my fiance Natty is big into. We don't really have an in with him per se, but I think he's attainable. Taking the main Irregular Fantasy plot in an eldritch direction, he just seemed a natural choice, starring in a cosmic horror story as he does. Patrick Rothfuss, renowned fantasy author of The Name of the Wind. I've had him in mind as a potentially attainable special guest star since learning he is old college buddies with Gretchen, whom you might remember from Better Yet, and presumably Randy as well, I guess. Backstory details elude me. And again, I'm not familiar with Pat's books. Gretchen calls him Pat. It's cute. I'm not as big a reader as I used to be. I can't focus, but he had a recurring guest spot on Critical Role, and I liked his performance. So I wrote a character into the pilot with him in mind. Not a character from the comic, but rather a villain I've had in my back pocket for many years, and finally have a good story he can fit into. And finally, I have this narrator role, and I want to try to get Jane Goodall. It's never going to happen, but we absolutely have to try because Goodall is a very important character in the comic, and she's getting up there in years. So if there's any chance of getting the real Jane freaking Goodall in this adaptation, we have to shoot for it right away.
Mhm.
Possibly even get her to say the words Jane freaking Goodall. I'm not getting my hopes up too high. I have other primatologists in mind to approach for the role instead because, yes, for the sake of the Jane Goodall reference, I want whoever plays our narrator to be a primatologist of some sort.
Mhm.
And what we're working on right now, we are laser focusing on design for further teasers, trailers, and pilots. Our focus is on designing everything, making sure every character and creature that appears has a finalized design, that every set and prop at least has solid concept art to be getting on with. We'll also be finishing up the other teaser for Keys and Kingdoms. That one will include an Indiegogo link. We're not allowed at this time to fundraise or otherwise get any financial gain from Irregular Fantasy. We hope at some point we can talk to David's lawyer about that. But regardless, we did have our own original IP to be Irregular Fantasy sister series. I've always seen that in its relation to Keys and Kingdoms. Here's something you might tell people. I would suggest that if people like The Legend of Vox Machina, maybe they'll enjoy Irregular Fantasy as well. I'm not saying we're geniuses for damn sake, but it is an animated adaptation of a very unorthodox gaming-based fantasy story, reimagined in a more traditional medium with appropriate changes to the story, but still capturing the comedy and characters that made it so beloved. And unlike Vox Machina, the whole family can sit down and watch Irregular Fantasy, though as the little content warning at the beginning alludes, we can't promise children would actually enjoy it. I don't know if it's you, the child's tastes. I don't know.
I'm hoping Dwalin becomes a child favorite.
Mm.
That's just a personal dream of mine, though.
You know what I'm gonna do when we're wrapped up here? I'm gonna put Irregular Fantasy on TV Tropes. I know it's a bit early, but as I said, a regular webcomic is an absolute darling there, so I'm gonna try it. Many years ago, I put one of my fanfics on TV Tropes, and over time, I've grown so embarrassed by having done that, I can't even bring myself to check to see if the page is still there, but I'm going to hold out hope for Irregular Fantasy remaining relevant and growing into its page. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Guess we'll find out.
So, I'm bad at conclusions. What have you guys got?
This has been a great project on all parts of it. I've loved it from the very beginning. Hopefully, it, like how Sage says, 18 seasons. I hope there's more. I hope we can keep pushing. I hope that, and it's just been a big learning process. That's the biggest part. It's all been a big learning process.
Yeah, we've never done anything like this before. Yeah.
Anything like this. And besides just learning how to edit and record and all that, it's just a learning process between all of us. Like the people we work with, us three, we're all the other, like Isaac, we're all learning each other, and it's just a great experience for everybody.
Yeah, I was just going to kind of piggyback off that. Like you said, we're all new to this, but at the same time, everybody who's gone on to create anything had to start from square one. Now we are not backed by major studios. We don't have millions of dollars. It'd be nice if we did, but we don't. But at the same time, most of us working with TAPAS are volunteers.
Yeah.
We don't actually get paid for our time. We do this because we believe in this project. We believe in Sage. We believe in what we're doing, and we're having fun with it.
Yeah, and
At least I'm having fun with it. I don't want to speak for everybody, but
definitely having fun.
We wouldn't be doing this if we didn't believe in it, and we wouldn't be asking people to check it out if we didn't think they wouldn't not enjoy it. We really do think people will enjoy this. We just got to get some eyeballs on us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that there's an audience for this. I think they'll really enjoy it. I think that teaser has done a great job of establishing what you're in for, but how quickly we get it done, I don't know.
Hard to say. Yeah, I mean,
it's your friends.
Yeah. And hey, I'm on record a lot just expressing my own impatience with myself and my productivity, and it's not. And there is a part of me that wants me to get stuff out there and to have people see it, but I also long for just the rush of working with everybody on the different stages of it. I really long to do that more often, and as the projects get bigger, I hope it can happen more often, because it's just a wonderful experience to have everybody together.
I agree. And again, we've assembled a group of phenomenal people from all across the globe.
Yeah,
Um,
and they should get paid. So please give me money so I can pay them.
but well, going to that, I mean, a lot of us have day jobs, a lot of us have families. So that said,
And
it
a lot
makes
of them
sense
do
that
community
sometimes things
theater
can't
as
go as
well.
fast as we would like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of
so it
they-
makes sense that sometimes things can't go as fast as we like because for most of us, this is not our job. It's not my day job. But we continue to work on this because we love it. We continue to work together because we love each other. And I hope that that is something that not just in the trailer, but I mean everything that TAPAS does, that will be demonstrated to the people who watch, the people who like. And I mean, we are doing this not just for fans of a regular webcomic. We're doing this for people who might be looking for something a little different, something that isn't like everything you might be seeing on Netflix or whatever streaming service or company or name something.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're
Something
really
fresh and
independent
new.
focused, but we're also trying to be very original. Even if this is an adaptation, we're still trying to be very original with it.
Still making our own spin-off from it. Still making our
Yeah,
own way.
so it's very much our own twist on what the comic is, and I can only hope that what I'm doing is regarded as respectful to the source material. We'll have to ask Dominic Noble about that.
Yes.
But no, it's been great.
And I also think that people will also really enjoy the sister series Keys and Kingdoms as well. I really do think people will like that one too.
Yeah, and it's all kind of setting up for we're also trying to make just a whole new role-playing game system out of this, and these would both be settings in that game's universe. So that's just something that I've had still something I've been working on with Randy now and then, and I think I try to get to it because it'll help me figure out the magic system a little better of both stories. I don't know. I didn't have to tell you that. I don't know. It just came to mind, but
it's something that's fun, and again, I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do with it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I can't be of more help personally, but I'm looking forward to what you guys can do.
We're just these stories that we're doing, they have come to just really mean the world to me, and more so than anything I've worked on in the past. And they're just coming so close to really being a reality. And I'm just very grateful to everyone who's supported me in getting this far.
Hell yeah.
We're happy to be on board.
Exactly. It's been great. Like I said, I don't know why I keep saying that. It's just been great. It has been.
It certainly has, yeah. Thanks for.
Sorry, one last thought. Since D&D is becoming more popular too, I can't wait for having that whole play model kind of thing that we get down to. That's when I really, hopefully, we shine the greatest there.
Oh yeah, it's do a bit of actual play in our own system. Yeah, that would be sweet. Okay.
That was it. Last thing.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for hopping on board this second episode of Chit-Chat. It's been. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like every year the channel gets a little less active than it was the previous year, and that bums me out. But I am always trying. And now that we're done here, I've got other stuff I can get back to focusing on. So I'm gonna do that. I got to edit this a little bit, but then it'll be out there, and I'm really pumped about what's coming up next. So. Thanks for joining me here, you guys, and anyone who's been listening all the while. Appreciate you.
Yeah,
and I hope you'll stick around for more Irregular Fantasy.
Yay! Yay!
To support TAPAS and learn more, visit our link tree. TAPAS and Stuff Productions is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon, including Knight Sadie Allen.